So I invited this guy right here to debate me on the Trinity being in the Bible, and I can show the Trinity in the Old Testament even. And he says there's no need for a debate because it's just simply not in there. Well, it's in there, and I'm going to show you from this book right here, Interesting Bible Facts with Theology. And if you look down in the comments, I will have the ISBN number listed for that in particular book. But that book, I have a 13-page essay on the Trinity being in the Old Testament. I'm going to read you a passage from that text right now. All right, so here's a passage from Interesting Bible Facts with Theology. This brings us to Deuteronomy 6:4, a special verse that the Jews call the Shema. In English, it is translated as, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." That is, "Hear, O Israel, Yahweh or Elohim, Yahweh is one." Taking it back to English, "Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our gods, Yahweh is one." Notice the plural on the gods there. Here we see God existing as a plurality within a singularity. God is telling us that although he exists as a plurality, that plurality is only one. Although most Jews will argue that the Shema is the definitive scripture that shows the oneness of God and obliterates the Trinitarian view, the Hebrew in Deuteronomy 6:4 goes further. Here, the Hebrew word translated as one is echad, and it does not refer to an absolute oneness, but to a compound oneness. By compound oneness, we mean things made of parts that form a whole. That is how echad is used throughout the Hebrew scriptures. Again, the Hebrew written the way God wanted Moses to write it shows God being a plurality within a singularity. Several rabbis in the ancient past have written asking why Moses did not use yahid. Yahid in Deuteronomy 6:4 is a Hebrew word that is best used to mean an absolute oneness, unlike the compound oneness of echad. So in other words, if Moses meant to say that God was an absolute oneness, then he would have used the word yahid. Instead, he used echad. Echad indicates made of parts. If God wanted Moses to say he was an absolute oneness and not a compound oneness, Moses would have used the word yahid. Think about the Shema. Why would God need to emphasize his oneness if he was an absolute one? The use of plurality when calling him Elohim, which again, Elohim is a plural word, cannot be the majestic plural as we shall see below, and can only be justified as God being a plurality within a singularity. So there's just one point. The very thing the Jews use to say God is an absolute oneness actually says the exact opposite when you get into the nuances of the Hebrew language.